What up, what up, what up? We're back again with the UFC Fight Night Paris Moicano versus Denis. Prediction, analysis, picks, opinions, breakdown of the card. I'm accompanied by no other than the legend himself, the Dominican bad man, Serge, floor price guy. And we are combat sports guys. Floor price guy, how you doing today, brother?
I'm very, 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 very good. We got number 11 versus number 12. It's going to be exciting. 19-5 versus 13-2. Bad man versus another bad man. This is interesting, and you know this. We'll get to dissecting it, Roy. But I gotta ask you, how you doing, brother?
Oh, I'm doing well, man. We just got finished filming an interview with MMA pro Mando El Toro Gutierrez, 9-3. That's good. That should already be dropped. Make sure you check that out. Like, subscribe, help us out. Don't be stingy with the likes. That's what I tell everybody. Don't be stingy with the likes. Hook us up with the like and subscribe. Maybe a little comment. Maybe comment on my hat. Yo, you need to get a new hat. Comment on Floor Price Guy. Tell him he looks beautiful. You know, he likes comments. You get me? He doesn't like criticism. I learned he doesn't like criticism, but we'll get into that later. So we'll jump into the card here. Kicking off our card here, we have Bolaji Oki, the Belgian, against the Scottish problem, Chris Duncan. Now, Oki has one fight in the UFC. He's coming off of the Contender Series. His last fight was at UFC Fight Night 236 versus Timothy Kwamba. And in that fight, we got to see him utilize his jab to set up his shots. He did a good job of keeping the fight on his feet. He did demonstrate a solid defense with the takedowns. And on the other end, you have Chris Duncan, who his last loss was to Manuel Torres via submission at UFC Fight Night, Miranda versus Royval. He has 3 fights in the UFC. He's also coming off of the Contender Series. You know, in that fight against Torres, he did hurt Torres. He was winning that fight, and for some reason, he decided to go for a takedown, which ended up resulting in Torres getting the rear naked choke. I think just based on the fact that Duncan has more experience in the UFC, and Oki in his debut, he basically showed signs of issues with endurance and cardio, like later in the round. He did seem to slow down. He didn't really push the pace. I think Duncan as an underdog here, I like it. He's going to be the pick for me. What about for you, Floor Press guy?
I gotta go with Oki. We were going back and forth with this. You know, shout out to Chris Duncan. He in his last fight, he did suffer a loss. He did put Manuel Torres in danger multiple times, but he was not able to capitalize on that. And we were speaking about it. But here's the thing about it. I like Oki's power. I like when Oki kind of sits down. I like Oki's body work. He has amazing body work. I like he rips the body, goes on top. Mm-hmm. I gotta take Oki on this one, man.
I'm not mad at that. Next up on the fight card, we have Nora Cornolle. Cornolle. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that. Correct me in the comments if you can. Nora Cornolle against Jacqueline Calvacanti. Now, both of these individuals are 2-0 in the UFC. Nora's coming off that TKO win against Melissa Mullins. She is her record. She has, out of her 8 fights, 6 of them have ended in TKO. So that's something to note. This is a rematch, I believe. They did fight earlier in their careers. If you want to speak to that a little bit later, Calvacanti's coming off that split decision win against Josiane Nunez on the Kyle versus Cannonier card, which we covered and we saw as well. I think for this fight, Calvacanti, her precision with the striking and her ability to pick her shots and make better decisions is going to win her the fight. Now, you can make the argument, well, she looks so good against Josiane Nunez because Nunez is a smaller fighter, right? She's about 5'2" compared to her 5'8". In this fight, she is fighting somebody with a similar height at 5'7", and they're both strikers in that sense. So I think she could fight, moving backwards. She likes to close the distance and hit you from different angles. I think for me, Calvacanti is the pick. My only concern is that this fight is taken on short notice, so I don't know her preparation. Like, is she always prepared? Is she always ready? Like, what training does she do in the offseason, right, to prepare for this fight? So that is always concerning when a fighter takes something on short notice. But for me, I think she's the better fighter, the more tactical fighter.
And it's something we talk about often, right? Like certain fighters always stay prepared, others don't. This is a rematch. Um, it was actually Jacqueline's first encounter her second encounter with Nora back in 2021. Rematch 3 years later in the UFC, the biggest stage. I like Nora, but I like Jacqueline a little bit more. Nora has the power punching. I do like how Nora kind of twists her punches, overhands her way. I was looking at Nora's previous fights. She's done good, but I just think Calvacanti Jacqueline has the footwork, and then we add the reach advantage, the height advantage. It's not that much, but when you have a fighter like Calvacanti that is able to kind of circle the ring, just keep her pedal on. So I'll go with Calvacanti decision if she brings the gas tank in. But if she gets tired, I think Nora capitalizes, barrages her, clinches her, and it's a long night, bruv.
Yeah, it's gonna be long, bruv. Like our man Banter says. Shout out to Banter. I always mention him in every video we've done so far. So, yeah, that's my main concern is where's the gas tank? Is that going to affect the match? But if I were to bet on this match, on this fight, I would say it goes the distance. I think, I think it's going to be a decision win for Cavalcanti, and we'll see. Third fight on the card, we have Daniel Barez versus Victor El Magnifico Altamirano. Now, they're both coming off of losses. Barez last lost to Jafel Filio via arm triangle. He does demonstrate a solid strike game, and he's very good with the grappling. And Altamirano is 2-3 in the UFC, with his last loss being via split decision to Felipe Dos Santos, who we saw fight as well on the Gilbert Burns and Sean Brady card as well versus Andre Lima. We also covered that fight. So that's not a bad person to lose to. He does have the momentum. I think, though, between these two individuals, Altamirano he's the better striker, and he does demonstrate solid takedown defense. I think he's going to be able to keep this fight on its feet. Barez is going to try to shoot for the takedown. He's going to try to bring the fight to the ground and win and control his opponent. But I think, I'm going to have to stick with the Mexican, brother. I'm going to have to stick with Altamirano, Magnifico, to pull out a W.
I mean, that's good. You have to, you have to someday support your home country. But I got to go with Daniel. I like how he performed in his last fight. And, he ended up fighting Philo. Philo's great on the ground. So he ended up, rocking him a couple times and taking him to the ground. And he mixed it up pretty well. But it's just, when you go down with an expert like that, you got to be careful. One of the things we were talking about, these guys' hands are so good, coming from Spain. You got the champ from the featherweight division, Topuria. Great hands. I look at Victor. I didn't like his style. He has faced a tougher opposition. You got to give him love. Coming out, he's lost 3 out of his last 5. Carlo Hernandez, tough fight. Then he took 2 wins. Daniel Arceta, ground and pound. Vinicius Salvador. But then Tim Elliott, veteran. Tim Elliott fought for the belt. Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson took him to a decision. And Felipe Dos Santos, which is my personal favorite, that was a split decision. He has faced the tougher opposition. I just got to go with Daniel. I think this fight coming up, we're going to be able to kind of see him pace it all together, go ahead with a striker, and get his hand raised at the end of the bout.
Next up, kicking off, we have Aileen Fiona Perez against Daria bear with me, guys. Zheleznyakova, the Iron Lady. Now, I got to ask before we get into this fight predictions, Serge, are you subscribed to Aileen's OnlyFans?
No.
People want to know. There's been a lot of rumors going out there that you've been you've been a long-time member, a long-time subscriber.
You know what, Champ? The twerking is enough for me on the UFC Fight Pass. Shout out to her, though. I hope she's getting paid.
So Daria is 1-0 in the UFC. She last won via decision against Montserrat Rendon. Daria likes to push forward and throw heavy strikes. She's good on the ground, but her ground game here can be a vulnerability against Aileen Perez. We've seen Aileen Perez on the ground, right? She is 3-1 in the UFC. She last beat Jocelyn Edwards via unanimous decision. Her striking and ground game looked good in that fight. I think she got I don't know if I remember the stats, 5 to 6 takedowns in that fight in a 3-round fight. That's not bad. She's averaging 2 per round. And she's improving, right? The UFC likes her, the fans like her. She's improving. She's the younger fighter. No, she's older. She's 29 years old. Oh shit! I thought that said 26. I'm gonna have to cut that out, brother. But yeah, I think for this fight, Perez is for this fight, Perez is the favorite. The UFC likes her, the fans like her, and she has the UFC experience. I think experience trumps all, right? So I'm gonna have to go with Aileen Perez.
Yeah, and you know what? Shout out to Aileen Perez. She had a brutal fight with Jocelyn Edwards, and I also think there was a little bit of a controversy prior to the fight where they actually fought as well. A little controversy there, little kind of hint. She is 3-4 in her UFC career. You know, this she's very brandable, Perez, and shout out to the twerking. There's a combination of different. Even other fighters are supporting her.
Shout out to the twerking, brother. Shout out to the twerking.
Shout out to the twerking. There's nothing wrong with that. But then you have the Russian Darya, and Darya, is a lengthy fighter. Has one fight in the UFC, fought Montserrat Randon, which was a unanimous decision win. But one of the things that Montserrat was able to do was take her down, and you kind of touched upon it a bit. I think that's why if you look at the odds, you're getting a minus 270 on Perez and a plus 220, because how good does Darya get in 5 months? This was 5 months ago, right? And I just don't think she'll have enough to kind of stop the takedown. Darya is the lengthier fighter. 5'9" versus 5'5". Let's take into consideration that we don't even have a reach in topology, but the reach is going to be very significant. Topology has Perez winning 85%, and it's by decision. I have to say the same. I don't think. Now, Darya does have very good. Sorry for interrupting myself. Very good jab, a very good range. But I just don't like how she performed against Montserrat. And again, 5 months, Roy. 5 months to correct your takedown versus somebody that's a little bit more versatile. So I expect Perez to win decision, take her down, control her, get her back up, take her down again.
Yeah, I agree. I think Perez is going to pull out a victory in this one. Next fight we have is Taylor Lapilus, double impact against Vince Morales, Vendetta. Now, this fight, I believe, got added in late. I don't know much about Taylor Lapilus, to be honest with you. I do know that he's from France. I do know that the fight is taking place in Paris, which is in France. I'm gonna go with the home. I'm gonna go with the home turf player here. I'm gonna go with Lapilus. Yes, I mean I don't want to lie to you guys. That's what I'm going with. Just based on the fact that he's from France, I apologize.
Listen, apology taken. Taylor's coming out as a massive favorite. It's minus 350 versus Vince Morales. And Vince, this is his second time in the UFC. He had a stint a couple years ago, back in 2016. Faced very good opposition. I don't know what happened after his 2016, because he did beat Leandro Iza one, but he's had time to get better. Now, is he better than Taylor? A lot of people don't agree with this, right? They have Lapilus winning by 88%, Morales 12% via decision. I liked the fight of Taylor versus Cody Stamann. That was a very good fight. It was very interesting to see Cody Stamann, a veteran of the sport. Taylor was able to take him to a unanimous decision, showcase speed, leg kicks, control, striking. So, champ, we got to go with Taylor on this one.
I agree. And I won't be betting on this because based on the information given that I don't have too much. I gotta maybe throughout the week I'll look more into his tape and his past, and I'll make a decision on that. But we'll see.
Yeah.
Next up here we have Ludwig Klein, Mr. Highlight, against Roosevelt, the Predator Roberts. Now, Klein is 6-1-2 in the UFC. He has notable wins over Ignacio Bahamondes and Thiago Moises. Klein is the smaller fighter. He's going up against an individual who is, I believe, 6'2" compared to his 5'7", so that could prove to be an issue. If you watch him fight, he really likes to mix in the jab and the kicks to set up his strikes and his combinations. And I think, if he's able to close the distance, get in the pocket, kind of set up his shots and move around Roosevelt, he can pull out a victory. You have Roosevelt. He's the taller fighter. He does a good job of maintaining the distance, setting up shots with his jab. But I just think Ludovic is going to close the distance, get in the pocket, and he's going to prove to be too much for Roosevelt.
Champ, we were speaking about this fight, and you were telling me Klein is a real deal. They call him the Mr. Highlight, and like, look, he beat what you could debate is a top 15 fighter by Thiago Moises. It's a very impressive fight. That was only 3 months ago, right? Mm-hmm. He's been very active. 6 months ago, then fought again. Then a year ago, he beat Bahamondes.
Yeah.
Right? And we got to see how good Bahamondes has become versus, Roosevelt Roberts is second stint in the UFC. I like Roosevelt. I like what he stands for. These odds are way out of left field. Like, are they warranted? Yes, I understand. But when it comes to how do you do this? Like, you got a parlay, like 800 to make $100 doesn't make that much sense, champ. So if anything, going into this fight, I got to go with Mr. Klein. I will either parlay it with 2 more fights or I'll pass on this one. Minus 800 it's not my thing.
Yeah, he's just the overall better fighter in my opinion. So he should pull out a W. I probably will stay away from this one just based on the money line itself.
Yeah.
I haven't seen the prop bets. I don't know what's available at the moment, but I would look into some of those as well once they come out. But for now, I'm staying away. I think Ludovic is the pick. Co-maining our prelims, we have Umar Sy versus Woon Jung. Sy is 1-0 in the UFC, where he won via rear naked choke against Tukos in his last fight. He's 10-0, where 8 of his fights ended in finishes, 4 via TKO and 4 via submissions. He's fighting Woon Jung, who is 4-1-3 in the UFC and is coming off of 3 losses in a row. The fight, in my opinion, was set up to prop up Umar Sy. I think Umar Sy is the pick. I think he's going to win. That's where I'm going to leave it there.
Is that what you're doing, against a South Korean fighter? Let's be very clear on this. The Sita is 3-5, all 3 losses out of 5 fights. Carlos Ulberg potentially was going to fight Jamal Hill. He pulled out. Devin Clark has been lingering in the top 15, 20 for the past 6 years, I would say. And then Dustin Jacoby, also another top 15 fighter. He's faced very hard opposition. Now, when you look at Umar's record, it's been good. Like he submitted somebody, KO. Like, this guy's a finisher. He comes in, and the length. That's why I'm really impressed. He has an 83 reach. They're both the same height, but the reach advantage, you got to give it to
5 inches longer
to Umar. So I mean, and listen, like we didn't speak about the French home court advantage. Is this receiving a power up? Because if it's so,
I don't know how I feel about power ups, because we said the same thing about the spear, and a lot of the Mexicans lost. So I don't know how I feel about power ups.
Lazy boy did good. But anyways, I digress. Umar takes it by whatever he wants. I have to say, this kid is. The UFC is, I don't know. I think we have a top 10 guy in the next year or two. Yeah.
Okay. Not mad at that. Main eventing our prelim card here, we have Ion Cutelaba, the Hulk, against Ivan Erslan. I believe this is Erslan's debut in the UFC. And, Cutelaba, he's been around for a while. He's 6-1-9 in the UFC. He last lost to Philip Lins via unanimous decision at UFC 299. He has a good grounding. He's very strong. Like, if you watch his fights, he doesn't take his opponent down with like technicality, and it sounds like he's just brute strength. He just takes them down at will, right? I don't know much about Ion Erslan. I think this is going to be a test for him. It's his UFC debut. Your UFC debut and you're able to main event in the prelims. I mean, obviously they're high on you. I don't know. I'm indecisive on this one. For Press Guy, what do you think?
I think it's going to be a good match. I think we're in for a very good, entertaining match. Ion is coming out 4 losses out of his last 5 fights. This is not good. I'm surprised they didn't cut him. However, the light heavyweight division is lacking talent. But that being said, he's always an entertainer. He fought 2 fights against Ankalov. One of them, he faked something. The fight got stopped. Then the other one, Ankalov by pure domination. He's faced tough opponents. Like if you see his record, Ryan Spann is a top 15 fighter. Johnny Walker, similar. Kennedy, we saw Kennedy's now at heavyweight. Even his last fight, so I expect Ion to come in. If he could avoid getting emotionally or not raging, because that I think that's his Achilles heel. He rages and goes for the kill and all this different stuff. Ivan has I've watched his fight. He has kind of good sense. Now it's his first time in the UFC. It's an even fight. I have to go with Ion. I think he's gonna use all his experience. I think this fight he puts it together, and it's a crossroads for him, right? If he doesn't win this one, he's gone, and then he has to build up his career somewhere else, and then potentially come back. So I'm gonna give it to Ion.
Okay, I'm gonna go with the young buck. I don't know. Something just tells me Ivan's gonna come in. He's gonna make a name for himself and be a contender, perhaps in the UFC light heavyweight division. But we'll see. I'm going with Ivan.
And I'll say this: if Ion loses, maybe it's time to drop down to middleweight. Maybe consider it. So we'll see what ends up happening. We'll see the rhythm of the fight, and we'll go from there.
Kicking off our main card, first fight of the night is Fares Smile Killer Ziam against Matt, the steamroller Frevola. What are your thoughts on this matchup? Who do you got?
Shout out to the steamroller. Saw him in New York against Denis back in November. It was a tough fight. It was a tough fight for him. I like Matt on this one, champ. I like Matt is a full grounded fight. Like he's going to be incorporating a lot of different elements. Barez, also a good fighter. When I pulled kind of footage of Farez's last fight, I didn't like how he was being taken down. He did win that fight by split decision, but I think Matt is going to pressure him, take him down. He's going to keep him guessing, right? Shout out to Matt. He beat one of a top 20 fighter by Drew Dober. He displayed a lot of heart there, did things well. I think Matt mixes it and gets the takedown, standing up, puts a grind on him. So if Perez is not able to defend this takedown, it's going to be a long night.
Yeah, I think Fares standing at 6'1". If you watch some of his fights, he really likes to maintain a distance, utilizing his leg kicks to set up his shots. And then once he's kind of figured out the range and the distance in his opponents, he closes the distance. I think if he's able to withstand Frevola's forward pressure early on and not get taken down, kind of utilize the takedown defense and kind of maintain that range, he will pull out the win. So I think I'm going to go with Ziam. I'm going to go with Ziam to win this fight. Right. Next up, we got Morgan, the last pirate, Charriere, against Gabriel Fly Miranda. Now, Charriere is an explosive striker. He likes to mix it up. Sometimes he keeps at a distance or closes the gap and likes to get into the pocket. He has very good cardio, I would say. He's going up against Gabriel Miranda, who is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu specialist. He's very dangerous on the ground. He likes the fights to go to the ground. He doesn't really have a versatile toolkit, in my opinion. He's one of those old school, I would say, MMA fighters that kind of just takes one martial arts and masters it and kind of utilizes that to win his fights. I think, my opinion, Morgan Charriere, despite his last fight being an L, I think he does have the momentum. If you look at his record prior to that, he's coming off of 4 wins off of 5. I think he has the momentum, and I think he could win this fight.
And like you were saying, Charriere's last fight was a loss, but it was a split decision, so it was razor close. Looks to be more the full fighter, the younger fighter as well. We're talking about 6 years difference versus Gabriel Miranda. Only lost 1 fight out of his last fight, and that is against the number 11, the number 11 ranked Benoit. So shout out to Benoit. He's been featured. There's been a lot of cross fighters, but it's also Europe, right? So it's to be expected. I'm taking Charriere here, man. I think Charriere has the full tools and will look to implement his game plan and take the W.
Decision. I agree. Next up, we have a welterweight bout. This is a great matchup. I actually like this matchup. We have Kevin Jousett versus Brian the Butcher Battle. What is your opinions of this fight, for Perez guy? I want to hear because I know you're excited for this too. We went back and forth prior to getting on there.
Yeah, I like Kevin. I'll be honest with you. I think Brian Battle. One of the things we were kind of discussing is that he's coming to his own. He's mixing it all up, but there's something about Kevin. Coming from City Kickboxing. I think he's been training with the boys with Izzy and a lot of them, and he's been getting good. He's also known for his judos, for his judo throws, right? Looking at his previous fights, like he's able to keep the distance. Now, he does have 1 inch height advantage. However, Brian does have 2 inch reach advantage. So it's going to be interesting how he's able to he also starts slow as well. I'm going to take a gamble here. I'm going to give it to Kevin at a plus 155. However, I wouldn't be so frightened if Brian Battle wins. He's showing a lot of evolution, a lot of advancement, even on the ground. It was just very sad that 6 months ago there was the accidental eye poke. He's had time to get better. I know he really wanted to fight. So
Angelusa.
Yeah, and respectively, this is a hard fight for me, but I will be giving it to Kevin.
Yeah, I think for Jousett is if he's able to slow down the pace and kind of make the fight his fight, it can sway in his favor. But I just think Brian Battle, he's continuously to get better. He wants to be better. He wants to be out there. He was upset that his fight got no contest against Angelusa. Like he wanted to go out there. He wanted to get that fight because they had a lot of back and forth. That fight meant a lot to him. But I just think that Battle, he pushes forward. He's strong. He's a better striker, and he finishes fights. And he's improving, as we mentioned. So if he's able to not let Kevin slow down the pace, as you mentioned, he starts off fight slow. If he's able to kind of push that and make the fight his pace and make the fight his, he's going to pull out a win. So for me, I'm going to go against you. I think the pick is Brian Battle. We'll leave it at that. We'll see. Next up, we have William Jaguar Gomis against Joe Anderson Tubarão Brito. They're both 5-5 in their last fights. Gomis is 3-0 in the UFC, coming off a KO TKO win against Yanis Yemori. Brito is 5-1 in the UFC, is coming off a TKO against Jack Shore. He is on a 5-fight win streak, all ending in finishes, 3 KOs and 2 via submission. What are your thoughts of this fight?
Champ, this is a very intriguing fight. I didn't know about Williams, so I had to kind of go in and just check a lot of film work, and he has very good lateral movement. Good, I like how he kind of circles the octagon, keeps his distance, doesn't take that approach. He's from the MMA Factory, takes a page out of Cyril Gane. These guys over there, MMA Factory, they love to work on their bouncing, their footwork, their lateral, and I understand why, right? It just gets you in and out of places, and just somebody comes with an overhand right, it's very easy to go back. Now, here's the thing about it. I was without, I was looking at Gomi, did the research on Gomi, but then I had to go back to Brito, do a little bit of research on Brito. But man, Brito might be that guy, champ. He's aggressive. He's in your face. What he ended up doing to Jack Shore, he went after that calf kick, champ. He busted up his calf kick. They had to stop the fight. It was bleeding. Yes. He ended up, it looked like somebody in the audience grabbed the gun, popped him in the shin, and they had to stop the fight. It was that bad. So yeah, Brito is aggressive. It's going to be interesting because I'll tell you this. I want to go for Brito. I look at the odds. Does it make sense? I guess so, because of they're anticipating this level of aggressiveness might make Gomis break. But the reality is, it's a hard one, champ. I have to tell you, I think this fight is actually closer to what the odds present. And the reason why, because what happens if Brito starts rushing Gomis, and he's able to kind of put him at pace.
And one of the things too that we have to take into consideration, and one of the things I'm noticing here is Gomis last fought in September of 2023, so he hasn't been in competition for over a year, for about a year. whereas Joe Anderson Brito he fought twice in 2023, and then his last fight was in May, so he is coming off of a 5 month break to get back in the octagon. 3 of Gomis's fights have been canceled. He was set to fight John Silva, which I would be interested to see in that fight. That would have been a good test. Masik Bagdasaryan, and then Lucas Almeida.
Yeah, champ. I mean, he is coming from Chudo Box, right? Brito.
I think, with this fight, Brito, I want to know, because I also watched film on him. He's very explosive. He comes out hot and he likes to finish fights early, right? Kind of like what we said about Manuel Torres. He kind of looks for that, that early finish. What happens, though, if this fight does go the distance? How does he look? How's his cardio? How's his endurance? Is Brito going to be able to utilize that to his advantage, right? And kind of drag off the fight and win off of that. But, just based on his explosiveness and from what I've seen, and you just mentioned he might be the guy, I'm going to go with Joe Anderson Brito for this fight. I like him.
I also have to go with Brito, unless there's a game plan that they've studied this guy and they understand that this is how we're going to get him, right? Like I said, the MMA Factory breeds fighters that love footwork, and when I say footwork, they get on their bike, they're in and out, right? He has the potential of that Cyril Gain style, so I'll go with Brito as well.
I agree.
Yeah.
Co-maining the UFC Fight Night Paris, we have Nasruddin Imavov, the Russian sniper, up against Brendan All-In Allen. This is a middleweight ranked fight. We have the number 4 in Imavov against the number 8 in Allen. Imavov is 6-1-2 in the UFC. He's coming off a TKO victory over Jared Cannonier, whereas Brandon Allen is 12-2 in the UFC, and he's coming off a split decision win against Chris Curtis. He is currently on a 7-fight win streak. And, I don't know if you want to consider that 8-fight win streak, because he did get into an altercation at a hotel at the Hard Rock Casino in Las Vegas. I don't know if you saw that video that was trending on Twitter. But I don't know if you want to count that as a dub. We could say he's 8-0, but he's 7-0 officially in the UFC. What do you think of this fight, for Perez, this ranked middleweight fight?
Yeah, so one of the things we were speaking offline was this is a rare fight that this fight could have been its own fight night. This fight could have been a main event, and it's not. Both fighters are coming from main event fights. You have Imavov coming from the Jared Cannonier fight roughly around 3 months ago. He took this fight very quickly. And then you have also, Brendan Allen fighting Chris Curtis. I know, and Paul Craig. So it's interesting why they opted, but I do understand, right? You have Imavov, coming from France. And then, I like Imavov, champ. I like that he's in the MMA Factory, and it goes into the realm of the footwork, of the in and out, the striker that goes in and out. I've been following Allen now for a couple of years. Shout out to Allen. He submitted Kevin Holland. He's done a bunch of nasty stuff. Allen's last loss was Chris Curtis, and he ended up taking it back. I have to go with Imavov. I think Imavov has the footwork, the style, and the mental fortitude to take this decision. Will it be a finish? I mean, I'm going for the decision, but if Allen managed to squeaks it off, it will be a finish.
Yeah, I also am going to go with Imavov. I think he is the better striker. He's also a good wrestler, right? Whereas Brandon Allen, he's a Brazilian black belt in jiu-jitsu. I just think that Imavov, utilizing his wrestling, is going to be able to keep the fight on the ground and defend the takedowns well. But you just got to be respectful, right? Anytime you go against a Brazilian jiu-jitsu practitioners, you got to be careful, right? Because they're always looking for openings to take you out. But I think Imavov was the pick here for me.
Great forward, champ. So I mean, let's hope. But if not, and I said before, Brandon is a threat. He's very explosive. So yeah, the first round should tell us the tale of how this fight is going to go.
We've arrived at our main event. We have a lightweight bout versus Renato Money Moicano against Benoit, God of War, Saint Denis. Now, Renato is coming off of that W off of a UFC 300 against Jalen Turner. We were able to come back after Jalen Turner thought he had a walk-off knockout, right? He came back, he TKO'd him, he won the fight. Now, if you look at both these guys' recent fight, Benoit Saint Denis had a fight where he was dominating. He was putting the brakes on fucking Dustin Poirier, right? He was, mixing in the ground game, hitting the punches. He was in the pocket, throwing elbows. And for whatever reason, he got hit. That's all she wrote in the second round. Whereas, Moicano was losing his fight, and he came back and got it out of victory, right? So the similarities and the differences are there. I think Saint Denis is going to be too much for Moicano. I think he's going to push the pace forward. I think he learned from the Poirier fight. I think that was a good loss for him. It was a good lesson for him. He's going to learn to maintain the pace, focus on his endurance, because one of the things you can argue about Floor Press Guy was that a cardio issue against Poirier, or was it the staph infection that affected him, right? The one that he claimed he had on his forehead, right? I think, he's going to push forward, and he's not gonna make the error that Jalen Turner did. If he knocks him down, he's gonna go down. He's gonna hit him with a vicious ground and pound. He's gonna win the fight.
And you know what? Let's start with saying that we ended up doing a breakdown of this via X, and we have an article where we break down all the fighters, all like every win, every loss, stats, and everything. But I have to say this. Stan Denis has shown, an incredible heart. I am picking Stan Denis. Moicano's a bad man. Moicano money has done a very good job promoting himself lately. However, champ, his last fight against Jalen Turner, Jalen Turner should have won. And what happened? Jalen Turner was falling in love with the knockout KO, right? That knockout walk, and that's what got him. That's what lost him the round, right? Because a veteran like Moicano came back. We turned it into Stan Denis. You were just speaking about the Dustin Poirier fight. I did bet on Poirier. It was a plus 220, plus 200 on Poirier.
Yeah,
and, of course, had to remind you. Hey, by the way, but I have to say, champ, remember going into that fight, we were like, what is going on with Stan Denis? Because he was showing the talents of a top 5 fighter. And what happened? Poirier was able to kind of withstand. I think what ended up happening with Stan Denis, he just blew off all the steam, all the power. If you attribute the fact that he was sick, champ, it had something to do with his conditioning, and that's when he kind of started slowing down. I just think he just went all out. Feel me? Poirier was hurt multiple times. Stan Denis is no joke. One of the things we talked about in the article is that both fighters are coming down. They've been in the lightweight division for a while, but you got Moicano coming up from featherweight, and then you have Stan Denis coming down from welterweight. I think one of the things that Moicano was speaking to, both Moises and Poirier about Stan Denis is that Stan Denis's power, it's something different. They said, man, when this guy hits you, it's a different level of power. And champ, he's been getting good at jiu-jitsu. I think Stan Denis takes it. I
think he takes it as well.
Yeah, is it a 3-1 favorite, champ? I don't think so. I would give him the 2-1. I think odd makers are taking into consideration what happened with Jalen Turner. Yeah, champ, I got to give it Stan Denis. I think he takes it. He takes it by. I think he finishes it if he doesn't take it by decision. This is a 5-round fight.
Yeah, 5-round fight. I think he does take it.
Yeah, and shout out to Moicano. I just he's gotten bigger in the lightweight division. I think at featherweight he was cutting too much weight. But he's faced nasty guys. He faced Brian Ortega. He faced the Korean Zombie. He faced Jose Aldo. And all these guys finished Moicano. But the question was he depleting himself too much? Was he really
the weight cutting issue?
Yeah, and I think that's what it was. But then you have, like I said, Benoit, welterweight, fought Dos Santos on a short replacement fight, and he, Dos Santos hurt him bad, champ. And there was controversy because the referee should have stopped the fight and didn't. But the fact that Benoit kept hanging there, it just shows the heart. So it's going to be a tough challenge. I think this fight doesn't. You could. If you're stumbling on who, if you're not decided, I think that also a good prop bet is within the distance.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably a good fight. Good bet.
There we have it. If you made it this far into the video, thank you guys for tuning in, listening. If you agree with us, let us know. If you disagree with us, let us know. Make sure you like and subscribe. Help us out a little bit. We're growing this thing. We have our X account. We drop the articles on why we are picking some of the individuals to win fights that we're picking. Make sure you tune into that. That will be below as well. We are Combat Sports Guys. Thank you guys for tuning in. Floor Price Guy, any parting words?
Thank you, Champ. Always a pleasure. Bet responsibly. Don't be a degen. And it's going to be a good time in France. Like, I'm excited. All the fights are great fights. So tune in early.
Tune in early, and then we'll be back next week with our UFC 307 Pereira versus Khalil Roundtree analysis, prediction, breakdown, picks. Make sure you tap in. Peace out, everybody.